Hello everyone, in this video I will be showing you how to create a projectile which you can spawn into the world like so, and then it will hit something and explode, and lovely, right? And you can see we're currently printing what it hits, so it's hitting the walls. And if we come over here, here's our targets, we can check, so it's going to fly towards that, so locked onto that, and then come over here and we can lock onto an enemy. We'll lock on. Why is it so fast? Okay. But you can see here, our projectiles follow this. It's because he's right behind me, so the projectile's hitting me. But as you can see, our projectile is flying towards the enemy. Oops. They're so fast. Should walk. But yeah, you can see that the projectile is technically following them, regardless of wherever their location is. So let me show you how you can set this up and get it into your own project. It's pretty easy. So let's go. Okay, so what I've done so far is all I did was come into my character and I just set the debug key B. So right click on the event graph, debug key B, like that. And all I've done is I've used my lock-on system and printed string just to see that this is working. So you can ignore all of this. So all we're going to do from here is we're going to make sure this is okay. Close that. And we're going to come over to our content browser and I created a new folder called projectiles and just created an actor called base projectile. If I open it up, you see it's got nothing in it. So first thing I'm going to do is going to add a box collision like this, and call it box collision. Easy as, drop it into the scene root. Okay, great. So now we can go and add a static mesh. Put that like that. Yep. So now we need a static mesh. So I'm just going to add a sphere. Doesn't really matter what we use. Edit the sphere. Okay, it's huge, so let's drop it to something like 0.2, 0.2, and 0.2, nice and small. And make sure our box fits. So if we go on the front, yeah, see our box is perfectly at the sides here, which is great. Okay, so the way we're going to set all of this up is to make this a base class so we can use everything in it, right? So what we need next is a projectile movement, like so. And this actually will show our projectiles. So come over to your static mesh again and we're going to add an arrow. I don't know if I can spell it. So this is basically the direction our this object's going to move, right? It's going to go in this direction that the arrow is going, right? So all we want to do is we're going to come over to projectile speed, projectile movement, and all of these settings here deal with projectiles, right? So the easiest thing what we're going to do is we're going to replicate all of these so that we can make them interchangeable between different projectiles. So say we wanted a snowball or we wanted a missile, we can change all of this here to be, rather than recreating the actor, we can go ahead and do this, right? So let's create a couple of variables. First one's going to be speed, and this will be the flying speed of the projectile, and this is going to be of type speed. And we're going to put this into projectile settings like so. And we're going to make a new one. We're going to call this max speed. So if we come over here, you'll see we've got this max speed here. We just in general, you want your object to follow the rotation of the movement. So let's say we had an arrow and it arced. This would make the static mesh follow that arc projection. So we can just turn this on for now, right? And then we can go ahead. We could also make this a variable if we wanted to, but I'm not going to do that now. Should bounce if you wanted to bounce, friction, all of that sort of thing. And then we're going to come over to homing projectile. So we need to see if it is a homing projectile. And then we also need to work on this homing acceleration. So create a new one, call it is homing projectile, and it's going to be a boolean, but I want to duplicate it quickly and just go homing acceleration like so, right? And that will stay afloat, and we can drop all of these into projectile settings like so, right? And we want to make sure all of these are instance editable and expose them spawn, right? So we're just going to do all of this. Expose on spawn, expose on spawn, and expose on spawn, right? And what we also need is a target, right? So if we go, we're going to create a new target. This is going to be type of actor, like so, and it's going to be an object reference. And we can put this under homing, like so. So basically what happens is this homing projectile, if we make it homing, we needed to give it a target so that it follows, right? But all we're going to do for now is we're going to go to the construction script and we're going to get the projectile movement, drag it in, and all we're going to do is set those initial values, right? So we're going to go set speed, initial speed, like so, and this will be our speed variable over here. And then we'll do it again. So set speed, and this will be the max speed. And that will be this max speed. So just going to drag this off like this. And then we're going to go, oh, and we also want to set the gravity. So let's go set gravity scale. And we'll put this up here, drag this out, oops, like so. And then we're just going to go out of here and promote it to a variable, and we can call it projectile gravity scale, right? And this will affect whether it's affected by gravity between a 0 to 1 scale. So let's set the initial speed. So let's set this to say 800. And max speed, we're going to set to 1200. So let's say we shoot an arrow and it goes up, that will be 800, and as it starts going down, it starts accelerating to a max speed of 1200, right? So that's essentially what we're doing here. You're going to want to set gravity if you are shooting an arrow, but if you're not, let's say, for instance, you throw in a magic ball from a wizard, that would not be affected by gravity, so your gravity scale will be 0, right? Okay. Cool. So next what we want to do is we want to make sure that this box collision, we want to change its collision types, right? So we can do it several things. Is let's say we place it in the world, right? As it stands right now, it will just fly through things, right? And not really affect the world in any way, unless you code it to. So let's say when it overlaps with something, it'll do damage. So let's say we take Diablo, for example, and we shoot as the sorcerer, the global ball that does like damage over a distance, right? Then you would use something like this overlap all dynamic, right? But for us, what we're going to do now is we're just going to make sure that the projectile hits something. So what we're going to change here is to block all dynamic, right? And then because we're doing that under the static mesh, we just want to make sure it has no collision because we want the box collision to handle everything, right? Easy as. So come over to your box collision and we're just going to go down to the on component hit, and all we want to do let's for now just say destroy actor, right? So if it hits anything, it destroys itself, right? So if I was to drag this out into the world quickly, here I'll rotate it this way, and if I simulate it quickly like so, let me just move these out the way. So simulate, see it hits the wall and destroys itself, right? Easy. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create an event dispatcher, and this is basically when the object goes out into the world and it collides with something. In our case it will be the enemy. We will then call this event dispatcher to deal damage, right? So go create a new event dispatcher. Let me just drag this over to the middle of the screen in case you can't see it. Sorry, ultra wides, you know. Okay, so it's this dispatcher here, and we'll just call this on projectile hit, like so. And we want to add some inputs. I'm going to add 2, and one is going to be hit actor, and this will be type of actor. Object reference, and the next one will be hit, and that will be type of hit result, like so, right? So all we're going to do then is we're going to drag this in and we're going to call it. Make sure you call it so that we can add all of this info, other actor to hit actor and hit result to hit result, right? So what we can do, if we wanted to add some extra flair, I'll just show you how we can spawn emitters, right? So we're going to go spawn emitter at location, right? And then from here, we're just going to break the hit result. We're going to get this location, put it here, nice and easy. And we can just go and find the explosion. So we've got this ultimate explode, right? So if I do this, if we look now in the world, it should get an explosion. There we go. See? Okay. Yeah. So we can also then go and play sound. Play sound at location. And let's see if we've got an explosion here. We don't. Okay, so let's just say that sound will be fine, and then we can drag in this location as well. So drag here, go there, happy days. Okay, so now if we test it out again, there we go, made a noise, right? Nice and simple. So just cancel that out. Okay, here, okay. To make it modular as well, don't forget we can set these as sounds or variables. So promote a variable, we're going to say impact sound, right? Let's put this under effects, just like that, right? And we'll do the same for this one. So promote a variable, and this will be VFX. Let's make it impact VFX, so we know exactly what we're talking about. Put it in the effects panel, and if we compile, it should be like normal. Same with this one. Yep, perfect. So, and this way it's just modular, so I'll show you what I mean after we're done with this, right? So okay, so we're going to come over to the begin play, right? And we're going to check if this target, because we're going to make this projectile home in now, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to get this target, right click and convert it to a validated get, right? So basically if our target is valid, then we're going to home, right? And we're going to create a new custom event. We're going to call this rotate to target, right? Like so. And then all we're going to do is we're going to call this rotate to target. And then from here, now we're going to start working on the projectiles movement. Okay, so drag out the projectile. And all we're going to do here is we're going to go set velocity, like so. Okay, we're going to need some space here. So let's just move this up, this up, this up, and over here. I'm going to click this. And now we need to get the velocity. And the velocity is direction and speed, right? So we can't just say it will head to the target, because let's say our target moves. Our projectile, when it spawns, will shoot directly towards where the actor was at the time it spawned. But we want it to follow. So we need to update this continuously, right? Something I forgot here. We just want to make sure all of this is instance editable and exposed on spawn. Right, like so, right? Compile and save. So all we need to do now is we need to get our actor location, and this is the actor location of our projectile, right? Because it is an actor, and we need to compare it to where our target is. Right, so all we're going to do is going to get this target, drag it out, get actor location, because now we've got our target's location, right? And we just need to get unit direction vector, right? So that's its speed and stuff, speed and direction. Let's move this here, and we want to multiply it, right, by our speed, because that's how fast our thing will fly towards it. And then we just plug it in like so, right? So as it stands right now, this will still fly directly towards where the object was rather than where it currently is, right? So all we're going to do is come to the end of our construction script now, And we're going to get a branch here. And we're going to just check if the projectile is homing, right? Let's move this over. Sorry, I'm checking my notes. Okay, so we need to make sure we've got a valid target first before we home, right? And if we do have a valid target, then we'll check if it's a homing projectile and go from there. So then we come drag off this pin here, which is our projectile movement. Go set homing is homing projectile. I set it to true. If it is true, oops, come on. And don't forget, we also need to set the homing acceleration. So make sure that this is an actual value and not just 0, because it's not going to work then. So let's say 2000 as a default. So it will turn adequately and fast enough to keep up with the object, right? So then we need to drag out here and go set homing target component, because it needs to actually find the components it needs to target to. And we can't just plug in our target. It won't work because it's not a type of scene component. So I think if we drag this out, sorry, here, gotta get root component. Yep, I think it's that one. Then we can connect that up like so. Let's just move this to the top here. Okay, so let's show you what I mean. Okay, so let's go and quickly set let's set, say, this box as the target, right? So I'm just going to rotate this way. And now we can come over to the details panel, and here is our target, right? So we need to find a target. So we're going to set it as the block, right? And now if I simulate, it should rotate towards, oh, they just followed instead, right? So let me try, let's slow the speed down of this. So let's make it 200, and that should be fine. Is homing projectile? Yes, okay. So now if I simulate and I do this, oops, why did that not work? Sorry, testing something. So if I drag this way, nope, did not work. Why? Let me try it on something else rather. What characters here? So I'm just going to test it out on one of these. So drag, select this one. Rotating cats. Okay, so let's try it on this one instead, see what happens. Anyway, let's create a child quickly and do that instead. So I'm going to create a right-click, create child, call it BP homing projectile, and we'll use that instead. So let's get rid of this one, and this will just allow you to see how easy it is. We can come in here and you can see all of this is now active, right? So if we come over here, you can see is homing and set this 2000. But I mean, we can do that from in the world as well. So if I was to drag this out here, set this up here, rotate this way. Right, and you can see here, all of this is active, and now we need to give it a target. Speed is a bit, let's say 100 should be good. So if I drag this now, yeah, you can see it's rotating towards us. So you can see now it is working correctly. So just double check your homing settings, and then when it gets to us, kaboom. See, great. So that's how we can modularly change how we want everything to work, right? Nice and easy. Okay, so now that with that set, right, we can, okay, so if we were to spawn this now from our character, what would happen is it would immediately explode. And the reason for that is because of the collisions. So the way we've set up the base projectile, right, is it's when this box collision hits something. So, which is correct, but it needs to ignore itself because it will blow up on itself, and it needs to ignore its spawner. So that would be the player in our instance, right? Okay, so what we need to do is we need to come over to our begin play, and before our validated get, we need to make sure that our box collision doesn't interfere, right? So come over to box collision, go ignore actor when moving, and there should be get owner, and make sure you tick it. And the reason we put this before the validated get is it needs to spawn regardless of if we have a valid target or not, right? So that's what this will do. Okay, so now that that's all done, we can now actually use this, right? So on our debug key B, we're going to go spawn actor from class, right? And we're just going to use that homing projectile because we want it to be homing, right? So gonna check all of this. This is all fine. And then target here, we will then use our lock-on system and just get the target from there. Get target, right? So if we are locked on, this will now follow the target, right? And here's our projectile, so we can go in and change the speeds and everything. So that's all fine. We're gonna go always spawn, ignore collisions. And for this example, we can just use our character itself. So if we go to the viewport here, we can add, let's create another arrow here. Arrow over here. And set it this way, 90 degrees. Set it about there. So we're going to use this arrow for where we want it to spawn. So obviously if you're using your socket location, you can do that. You can put it on your character's hands and everything. So this is complaining that we don't have a spawn, right? So we're just going to get our arrow and get world transforms like so, and connect this up here, connect like that. Your arrows should now go in, your arrow's back, right? Get back to the event graph. And then at the end here, we're going to go bind event to what did we call it? Projectile hit. Bind event projectile hit. Right, there we go. And now we need to create the event, and this would, oh no, not that one. We're gonna go custom event. We're gonna call this damage enemy, right? And then from here you do all your normal stuff. So we'll just print string for now and say who the damaged actor is. And then we can also go and break the hit results and do all the normal stuff. So get the location, the hit actor, blah, 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 deal damage to them. Just like our normal damage system would go from there, right? And then you can play all your effects and blah, 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 blah. Nice, right? Easy. So that's what this allows us easily to do with the event dispatcher. Okay. And the next thing we need to do is make sure that our character isn't affected, right? So what I mean by that is if we're running and we cast the projectile, it's going to interfere with our capsule component, so either moving us or moving the projectile, which we don't want, right? So we're going to do what we did in the projectile with this ignore. We're going to do the exact same thing with the capsule component. So ignore when moving, sure. And the actor that will be ignored will be the projectile. So we do that, do that. So it should look something like that, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and test this out, right? So let's go into here. And here's our character. And press B. You can see, oh, it's exploding on us. It shouldn't be. Figure out why. Might be due to the size. So let's just try reduce this. Let's maybe make it 0.05, 0.05, 0.05, and match the box to be the same. So let's make it 6 by 6 by 6. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. Yeah, let's move this arrow forward a bit just to double check. Okay. Let's try now. So press B, there we go. So you can see the object just keeps going, like so. And that'll keep going until whenever. So you can set them to have a lifespan. It's probably a good idea because in case you miss like this. So let's quickly do that. So come over to projectile movement. Let's see if there is a lifespan type thing here. Let's check here. Lifespan, maybe not. Okay, so on your actual projectile itself, we can set the lifespan. So let's say the projectile's lifespan, it can only live for 5 seconds, right? So if we come over here now, because if it's set to 0, it means infinite. So if I fire this after 3 seconds or 5 seconds, however long we set it, it should disappear. There we go, right? Okay. So let's go check that the homing works. So I'm just going to move all the way down to where there's an enemy I can target. Okay, so here's some enemies we can target. So I'm just going to target one and I'm going to fire, whoops, wrong projectile. So I'm going to fire that and you see it hits them, right? Let's see it's going towards them. So there's a weird bug. We need to double check that, but you can see now it's following there. So let's go to an enemy that actually moves around. So here are some enemies that will walk around. So if we do this, oops, wrong button. So it's coming towards us, which we want to ignore. But if we do that, you can see the projectile is moving. So if I jump up here, you can see, do that, you can see it's sort of following. But you can see our projectile doesn't turn enough, so we need to increase the velocity of that turning rate. So if we do that, you can see we hit. Oh, I'm gonna die. So let's just do this again. You can see it follows, right? And you did see it follow a bit. And that's how we do that. So let's go ahead and increase the rotation a bit. And actually, let's go ahead and reduce these guys' movement speed a bit. Character movement. Set this, say 200, and same with this guy. Just for testing purposes. 200, nice and slow. Okay, great. Let's get back to our projectile. So our homing projectile here, we can go and check the stats quickly. So this is 2000. Let's make it 5000 just to see. And why it's hitting us is because it's spawning here and flying backwards into us. So we just need to make sure that our character is facing the right way when we spawn that. So obviously you can then attach things to, say, the hand if you want, and it will spawn from the hand. But this is just for testing, just to show you, right? So here's our guys. Oops, wrong spot again. Why are they so fast? I thought I slowed them down. Okay. I'm just going to try to get away quick. So, see there it's rotating. This guy's being a pain. Oh shit. But you can see it's working now as intended, right? Leave me alone. You bastards. So yeah, so if we're not locked on, it will fire straight, like so. And if we are locked on, let's see if we can lock on here. You can see there it rotates a bit. They would move a bit, wouldn't be so bad. So you can follow them. But yeah, that's how we can easily create homing projectiles in Unreal Engine, right? And it's easily modular and we can change how it works. So I'm just giving you the framework so you can add it into your own game. So I hope that was easy to follow. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.